Hello and welcome to this panel discussion, Everything a Consumer Needs to Know About CBD. And joining me today are experts representing 3 different companies who are operating within the UK CBD industry. We have Moyra Cosgrove. Moyra is Head of Nutrition for Naturecan. Naturecan is a UK-based wellness brand offering premium quality CBD and other nutritional products. Hi, Moyra.
Hello.
Hello. We also have Haseeb Bani. Haseeb is the Director of Research and Development in B3 Labs. B3 Labs are a CBD white label company, and they're producing quality CBD products for multiple CBD brands in the UK market. And finally, we have Joseph Colliver. Joseph is the Chief Financial Officer for Sativa Group PLC. Sativa represents several brands, and their CBD brands include Good Body Botanicals, Good Body Wellness, and they have a direct selling channel, the Tessellate Collective. They also have a laboratory, Phytovista Laboratories, and a medical cannabis research division with their home office license is supporting their research partnership with King's College London. Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Griffin. First and foremost, I'm a CBD consumer. I've been consuming CBD for several years. My quest for a quality CBD product kind of led me into working in the cannabis industry. I've been a journalist and a research analyst for several years now in this space, and I'm the media lead for the Association for the Cannabinoid Industry, the ACI, and media lead for the Centre for Medicinal Cannabis, CMC. And also, for kind of a full disclosure, I'm managing director of a CBD brand called LXR Direct. So before we jump into the discussion, I'm wearing my ACI hat today. So I'll give a brief introduction on ACI, as ACI is one of the partners of the VOXPO event. The ACI is a membership organization, and our members are CBD companies. So we help CBD companies to ensure that all their products are fully legal, they're safe for human consumption, and the packaging accurately reflects what is on their products. The ACI have a certification program, and we audit CBD brands. And once they're approved, they're able to display the certification icon on their product packaging. And so this signifies to consumers and to retailers that the brand can be trusted. So this is a new initiative that the ACI has introduced, and we're currently in the process of auditing brands. And so we expect the first brands to start displaying the certification within the next few months. So without further ado, let's start this panel discussion. And we've got a few talking points. So the first one, kind of going back to the consumer, is what important things does a consumer need to know about CBD? So maybe I'll ask Moyra first, as she has the CBD brand.
Okay, it's an important question, Bill. First of all, CBD may not be for everyone. For example, if someone is pregnant or breastfeeding, then there is no safety data on CBD. That doesn't mean it's not safe. It just means that the data is not there. Therefore, it's inadvisable to actually take CBD at that time. And there may be other reasons why. I would also mention that CBD should not contain THC, which is the psychotropic cannabinoid. And this is of real concern whilst the market is not regulated. So I'll come on in the next section to the licensing program that we are going through at the moment. Thirdly, the health benefits of CBD should be available without THC. And then lastly, people should be aware that there is an upper recommended limit of 70 milligrams per day. So that's about 28 drops of a 5% CBD tincture. It's not the same as prescription-only medicinal cannabis. That is another thing, and this is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about CBD that can be bought in health shops and online, of course.
That's great. Thank you, Moyra. Maybe move up to Joseph now. So you have this Good Body Botanicals as your CBD brand, right?
Mm.
And what advice would you have for consumers regarding, or what's the important aspects that they need to know?
Well, in terms of advice, I think it's very much down to the individual consumer. Now, Moyra touched on the maximum daily dosage or usage. We can't refer to dosage because it's not a medicine. So we give some sort of clear guidance on the amount of usage that the consumer should take. But I think it's very much down to individuals and their endocannabinoid system and how each sort of sample that they take, how that interacts with them personally. So I think consumers should really experiment, start with a low dosage, a low concentration of CBD in terms of if they're new to the category or to the industry, as it were. Start off with a 2.5% or 5% type of a product, and sort of start slowly and work their way up. I think it interacts with each individual in different ways. It's a little bit like, for instance, alcohol. For instance, you might have, one day if you do consume alcohol, you might find it, a glass of wine or a pint of lager or something doesn't have too much effect on you, but on the next day it can really have quite a different impact. And again, across different friends and family, etc., you all have different interaction. Now, it's not psychoactive. It doesn't make you high, but it will have a different interaction with your own personal endocannabinoid system. So that would be my one bit of advice: is to ease into it and just take it steady.
Right. And thank you, Joseph. Haseeb, you're not actually selling directly to consumers, but
no.
through other brands.
Yeah.
Do you help the other brands to maybe understand kind of some of the important messages that they should communicate?
I think we try to be as clear as possible when obviously working alongside our brand. So it's more of a partnership, because at the end of the day, the product which is going out there is a B3 product. So it's important for us to put across that level of education, whether it's to the brands we work alongside or to the end consumer. I think the key aspects that we like to work on is not to overcomplicate it. Because it is such a new industry, it's a new product, it's something people are still learning about. I think the key thing is, while behind the scenes the industry, as you're aware, is quite complicated, it's to ensure that doesn't filter through to the consumers. It's ensuring the strength of the product is clear, whether it's percentage, milligrams, the size of the bottle, but it's clear to the consumer what they are taking. The ingredients are clear, the extract which is being used is clear, further nutraceuticals, ingredients, terpenes, flavonoids within the product are clear. So it's just for us, it's because it's such a novice industry, it's building up that trust. And while we aren't the ones providing that product to the end consumer, it's still educating the people we work alongside to make it as clear to the end consumer as they can, to ensure that with their brand specifically, they are building a trust with the people who are using that product.
Right, right. So, thank you, Haseeb. So, Moyra had kind of mentioned maybe groups of people that possibly shouldn't consume CBD. So, pregnant ladies, breastfeeding, and also it's kind of a recommended daily dosage, which I believe comes from the Food Safety Agency.
Yeah, that's it.
Their recommended dosage of 70 milligrams per day. Joseph was kind of talking about a consumer maybe taking it slowly as they're new to CBD. So to trying a little bit, seeing what the effects are, and maybe increase the dosage kind of accordingly. So
Yeah.
it seems that there's a lot of onus on the consumer to essentially to educate themselves around CBD. But then it becomes tricky for the consumer. So not only are they faced with a multitude of brands, a multitude of products, there's also a multitude of kind of sources of information. So maybe here it's an important kind of role of the brand to help educate the consumers here. So kind of moving on to the next talking point would be what is your company doing to help educate your customers or future customers? So let's stick to the same order to keep this kind of rotating smoothly. So Moyra, how's Naturecan educate your customers around this?
Absolutely, it's a very important consideration. And at Naturecan, we really do view the safety of our customers as our #1 priority. So with that in mind, Naturecan CBD products are undergoing a comprehensive independent testing program with safety and quality of the product in mind. We also have certificates of analysis, which can be viewed on our website. So that is assuring the consumer that we are doing tests and what the results of those tests are, which results in each batch of our products being passed as safe and of the quality needed for their consumption. I think it's very important to mention that Naturecan as a company is deeply immersed in the Food Standards Agency government licensing application process. So we are on track to have a fully validated application dossier, which is very comprehensive in terms of the safety requirements there. We're on track to have that within the time frame that's set out by the FSA, and that will mean that Naturecan products can legally remain on sale in 2021 and beyond. So we hope that gives our customers the confidence that we have been through these processes. And certainly we are very clear about our labeling, as some of our colleagues mentioned, and the instructions about who it's suitable for and the dosage limitations.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll just go into a little bit more detail on one of the points you mentioned there about the getting a scientific dossier validated by the FSA. So maybe as a consumer, people might not be aware of this this process and this kind of requirement. So essentially, in February, the FSA gave a deadline to CBD brands that are currently on the market to put in a safety application, essentially, for each of their products. So the FSA said that this kind of window of opportunity is until the 31st of March 2021. And should a company not have this kind of dossier validated by the FSA by that time, then technically their product shouldn't be on the market. So this is a very, very important sort of stage in I think in the CBD industry as it matures, that kind of heads towards a kind of full legal situation, and we're not in this kind of grey regulatory area that's been existing for the last few years. Yeah, so that was an aside. So maybe we move on to Joseph and talk about how Goodbody communicates with your customers.
Thanks. Well, last year, sort of early 2019, we actually conducted some focus groups with different age groups of our consumers, from young through to sort of older generation, just to really get some direct feedback as to what they're looking for in terms of CBD, labeling and branding and delivery mechanism, etc. So we did, a blind focus group where we had lots of different brands, and we got some excellent feedback. And really, there was a lot of, across the different age groups, a lot of confusion around dosage of CBD. Some brands have a percentage, some brands have an absolute sort of milligram. The labeling was poor in terms of use by dates and the full set of ingredients and other cannabinoids that may or may not be present in the product. So out of that focus group, we launched the Goodbody Botanicals range, and we did a few things. We made it very clear that it was, THC free within, the certain limits of detection in a laboratory, so less than 0.01%, and clearly label that. We actually added a syringe. Think of like a child's cowpole, bottle that you use. It's a little sort of plug syringe. To really, so you sort of regulate the amount that you're taking in, because we found with a pipette, you can drop, sort of drop in a couple of drops when you need to do one. So we can help the consumers sort of know exactly how much they're taking. And we've included QR codes on each of our products, so you can go back and actually see the lab report for that specific batch, to look at the cannabinoid profile, to see that it's actually THC free, and what other terpenes, and making sure that there's no other contaminants in there, heavy metals, pesticides, that sort of thing. So we've done a lot of work on the sort of labeling and packaging to really make it as clear as possible to the consumer and help sort of educate them. And also the website, used and case studies, some testimonials from consumers. But we're being careful to make sure that we vet those, to make sure that we're not making any medical claims, because obviously I think there's a few erroneous brands out there that will sort of claim lots of different wonderful attributes to CBD, and as we know, it's a food supplement, and so we shouldn't be making those claims. So we've done a lot of work, and we work with the trading standards as well to make sure that our labeling meets the required criteria. So we're quite proud of the sort of new approach to engaging with the consumer on that angle. Right.
Okay. So that sounds really great that you're kind of got this feedback from your consumer groups, and to help kind of almost let them guide you as to how you can present this information to them in a way that's useful to them. I'll just pick up on one point that you mentioned there towards the end, and that was about making medicinal claims. So I suppose if you're in the know on what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do as a food supplement company, and that you would know that you cannot make medicinal claims. So as a consumer, if I see a CBD company that is making medicinal claims, for me, that's quite a red flag, because that's saying they don't understand this space. So if they don't understand the kind of basic rules around this kind of thing, do they understand the rules about food safety? and what other shortcuts are they taking?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And that's, you know, if you're giving some advice to a consumer about what to look for in a brand, I think, yeah, that is a red flag. If they're making obvious medicinal claims, that is something, like you say, it shows that they don't have a full understanding of the regulatory framework within which they should be operating. And you know, our commercial team, you know, I own the sort of governance, etc., within our and compliance. You know, it isn't a level playing field at the moment. Unfortunately, there are people out there, other brands that aren't playing by the you know, the sensible rules. So that's why we welcome the increased regulatory environment from the FSA, you know, some clear guidelines, and working with the likes of the ACI, you know, trade bodies, respected trade bodies that can regulate our own industry, because we're trying hard. You know, my colleagues here on the discussion are trying hard, and we've got our own sort of regulatory and compliance frameworks in place. But it's good to have that top-down approach from both the regulators and also trade bodies to, I think, you know, clean up the industry and make it easier for consumers, that they can trust the brands that are there.
Yes, yes, because like as you say, it's not an even playing field. If you're a company operating in this space and disregarding all of the regulations, essentially that gives you a competitive advantage, because you don't have all the costs that kind of the good actors have.
Indeed, yeah.
So thank you, Joseph. Thank you. Haseeb, so it's a little bit difficult for you again. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Bill, you stitched me up going last.
I know. Yeah, so a lot of points have been covered already. And then added to that you're not a customer-facing company. But
I think.
Yeah, I was thinking this kind of on the topic of red flags. Maybe do you have any thoughts about that? Other signs that are maybe?
I think it makes it more important for us, because at the end of the day, what we do here, we're taking responsibility for other people and their brands. So the products we are putting out, there's even more onus on it to be what it says it is, for it to be compliant, for it to be a safe product, for it to be what the person who's buying it has asked for to specification. So while we operate behind the scenes, the importance is just as high to do all of the things that obviously Moyra and Joseph have been speaking about, including approval of the supply chain, so working with the right suppliers, ensuring our suppliers are up to the right standard. So everything we do here would be absolutely nil and void if the people we were buying from weren't up to the right standard where we want to be, and the rest of the industry needs to be. So all the COAs, safety data files, everything that comes with the raw material, and then once the product is finished,
the COAs is the certificate of analysis. That's right. That's the
certificates of analysis, of course. Yeah. and then obviously going through that process again with the finished product before it leaves here at the facility. And I think the key thing for us was separating CBD and food supplement from one another, and treating it as any other food products which would be sold in any retailer, online or wherever. So I think it was a bit of a wake-up call for us as well a year or two ago, to be able to take this from an uncompliant industry and look at it from the perspective of, regardless of CBD and where CBD is right now in the regulatory framework, this is still a product which is being sold. So there's numerous other things we need to look at for this product to be sold in reputable places. So I think the food safety side was the biggest thing for us. And like I said, obviously, while we're not supplying to the end consumer, so the question is a tricky one to answer, but I think it's all about trust and gaining that trust with the end consumers by being able to show them everything they need to see.
Yeah.
Which is what Joseph and Moyra have been speaking about.
Thank you, Haseeb. It's good to have having the view of the brands that are interacting with customers directly, but then also
it's good for me. It's good for me to hear it as well. It's great for me to hear it as well, because I don't get to hear about the end consumer on a day-to-day basis. It's more about what
your consumer or the CBD brands.
yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to even the playing field a little bit and shake things up, and we'll start with Haseeb for the final talking point. So essentially, what with there being so many different brands to choose from, so many different products to choose from, and then there's kind of background situation of there being reports in various newspapers and TV reports, etc., about whether you can trust your CBD brand. Kind of blind testing exercises showing brands with 0% CBD, too much THC, which maybe some people are not too upset about, but it is actually quite dangerous if you were to consume too much THC and then having to drive or operate heavy machinery. And then there's a kind of legality aspect as well. But how should a consumer choose a product from all of this that's on the market?
I mean, it's easy to sit here and say they should do their due diligence, they should look for these certificates of analysis, they should do all of this, but in reality, the end consumer isn't too likely to do. I mean, some people will. I think the first thing is for them understanding what they are looking to use the product for, and then actually going away and seeing what corresponds to what they want to use it for in terms of the strength they are looking at, the type of product they are looking at, the different types of products out there, because obviously we're not just talking about tinctures, we're talking about all the different types of ways of taking CBD, and not everything is the same for every person. It's a tough one. It is a tough one because, as Joseph was saying earlier, it's not a level playing field. So when someone's out there looking for a product, are they going to go to someone who says this will do all this for you, or are they going to go to someone which doesn't actually say that, because you can't say that? So I think the key thing is once the regs kick in on 31st of March 2021, hopefully you will start to see the playing field level out a little bit more, and then obviously the people who are putting good products out there will be able to be seen much clearer in comparison. I think the first thing I'd say is if someone's telling you this is going to do everything for you, as we said earlier, that's not something I would go for. It's a tough question to answer, and obviously I can sit here and say go for Naturecan and go for Good Body Botanicals, because I just hearing these guys speak, I know they are doing the right things with their product. Yeah, it's a tough question to answer, but it is being able to say to do that level of due diligence. But I think it's understanding on their behalf what that level of due diligence is.
Yeah, I mean, for example, the certificates of analysis. And that's a very important starting point, I would say, when you're looking at the product. I've seen examples of brands who kind of manipulate this somehow. And they say, here's our certificate of testing, but it doesn't actually relate to a specific batch.
No, exactly.
It's just a certificate.
No, and you see that all the time, and I think the key thing with the certificates of analysis is the lack of understanding within the analysis as well. We were speaking about limits of detection and limits of quantification, how these differ from lab to lab, when we speak about the different
so there you're referring to the actual
yeah, basically the level of accuracy which either your GCMS, HPLC go down to, and I think that's a key aspect as well in manipulating the COAs. And then you've got the validated methods for analyzing the content of cannabinoids, whether the labs people are using have these in place as well. So obviously, if you're using a lab which doesn't have this in place, you can technically manipulate the result to say what you want it to say. So I think again, it's looking at the COA, seeing that they are analyzed using validated methods, seeing that the limits of detection and limits of quantification are low enough to satisfy the levels of THC, namely that you are looking for, or the lack of THC. So it's all key points, like understanding what you are looking for before you look for it.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. So Joseph, that sounds very confusing if you're a consumer, to be looking at COAs and trying to understand what the testing laboratory sensitivity is and machinery that they're using, all this kind of thing. What advice would you give to a consumer to maybe to help guide them in choosing their products?
Well, I think some of the points that Haseeb and Moyra and yourself have touched on, it's clearly labelled. It's got clear percentage and preferably the absolute amount of CBD in there, and all of the other standard information that you'd expect for a food product. Full list of ingredients, etc., used by date. You've got to look for a certificate of analysis, and from a lab that's accredited, and full disclosure, our Phytovista lab is working to ISO standards. We haven't actually got our accreditation yet. We're in that process and should be coming in the next couple of months. But if you want to be looking for someone who's working with a credible laboratory, and it's a clear, like Haseeb has been mentioning, there's all the detail you need in that lab report. But what we touched on earlier, I would just be very wary of websites that are making extreme claims, because they don't understand the industry, they don't understand the regulatory environment. And as we've talked about, as we get into the novel food now, I think with the ACI and their certification process, and the charter that the ACI has, which they expect all of their members to sign up to, and they'll audit their members to make sure that they're adhering to those standards, that kind of stamp of approval, I think, will hopefully become the let's say sort of recognized benchmark or sort of quality.
Yes, I mean, this could make the job a lot easier for a consumer, because it's just, does it have the ACI certification?
Yeah, a little bit like that kite mark, a stamp. There is a third party. There's a trade body, an industry body, who are vetting their members and holding them to accountability and to the right standards. So we fully welcome that scrutiny and that framework that the ACI are putting in place, and I think it will improve the industry as a whole. And obviously, that therefore the members are, as part of a team who are interacting with themselves, with the FDA, etc. We've had dialogue with HMRC, with Home Office. We've got Home Office licenses. So if you're going to choose a brand, perhaps look into a bit of the sort of wider context of the group that they operate in. We're also looking to fully vertically integrate our supply chain. So we're going through a merger with a company called Stilcana, who are the manufacturers. They grow hemp and they do the extraction. At the moment, we're just a brand who buy from the likes of B3 Labs, but that's why we're sort of integrating and trying to sort of do the whole supply chain. So companies where they've got they vet their supply chain, and they get comfort that doesn't matter where they're sourcing it from, but that they can track from seed all the way through to shelf, to the consumer, through batch reports, etc. And they've got
traceability, as Joseph is saying, I think is the absolute key point.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you. So, you mentioned novel foods there. We did very well. We were 30 minutes into conversation around regulatory and CBD, and that's the first mention of novel foods. So for consumers who may be kind of not aware of what that is, so the novel foods is the safety validation that Moyra had mentioned earlier on. And this is a kind of a ruling by the European FSA, the Food Safety Authority, they're called, who essentially said that CBD is classified, and all cannabinoids are classified as a novel food. And this is because it has not been mass consumed before May 1997, I think, is the legislation. So although CBD has been consumed before that date, because it would be in hemp oil and other products, when it's extracted and using modern kind of day techniques, this is a new thing and it's novel, and companies need to prove that this is safe. So this is the safety validation we talked about. Yeah, so thanks for mentioning that. It was just to maybe give some of the viewers who could be consumers and not have that kind of level of overview in the industry. So, Moyra, would you like to add some closing words for these poor consumers who have so many choices?
Sure. We're all consumers, aren't we? So really for this part of the discussion, I've tried to put myself in the consumer's shoes and think, what would I do to ensure that I'm buying a safe, effective product when there are thousands to choose from? How do you actually narrow that down? So firstly, I do definitely agree that a red flag would be if they're making wild claims about the product or medical claims of any description, really, on their website or whatever medium the consumer's using to actually purchase the product. It's just showing a complete naivety of, and also a little bit of contempt for the consumer, because, you know, to start to give people false hope about conditions where there's no evidence is not in the best interests of any consumer. So that is a really important point. Asking the company that you think you might buy from a few little questions before parting with your money can be really powerful. So asking them questions either by email or on the telephone, whatever contact method they have on the website. Can you tell me a little bit about the testing that your products undergo? So not just a yes or no, are your products being tested? They can easily say yes, but can you tell me a little bit about it? For example, the dose of CBD, is that verified by testing? And that, of course, the THC level, it's either not present or it's within the very small legal limits that are allowable in any product. Can you tell me a little bit about the license application that you will need to have by next year? Is that something that your company is looking to have for your product? So that again will show a commitment towards the customer's safety and verifying that it is actually containing the CBD that it states on the label. I think definitely the ACI kite mark scheme that's coming into play within the next few months will be pivotal in actually giving the consumer the reassurance they need that these products are safe and effective. So once that becomes known out there, I think it's in the interest of any company obtaining that kite mark, which Naturecan certainly expects to be, to communicate that with their customer. It's a very valuable selling point, I think, and also it's giving that reassurance that customers are looking for.
And Bill, just to touch up on the kite mark point, why it's so important is as Joe was saying before, it's vertically integrated, so it's not just looking at the brand, it's looking at those guys, the manufacturers, it's looking at the extractors, it's looking at the growers. So it's basically validating your supply chain to show by the end of it, when your product is in a bottle, in a pen or whatever, that stamp is the stamp of approval. And I think, as the guys have said as well, it's very important for this industry, like many other industries, to have that level of certification and have that stamp of approval, which is missing at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Haseeb. Thank you, Moyra. That was very very informative, I think, for a consumer to think about kind of specific questions to ask. And I think this dialogue with your CBD company would really reveal to you kind of their commitment to their consumers and their product safety. And as you've all kind of said, I think this kite mark certification from the ACI would really going to make everybody's life a lot easier, because it makes the brand's life a lot easier, because you can say, look, we have been audited. You don't have to go into all the details of all of the steps, but we've gone through all of that, and this is the result. And it makes the retailers kind of purchase decisions very easy, because they know that they can trust these brands. And then for a consumer as well, it's you know, there's products on the shelves that you can trust. So I look forward to seeing Goodbody and Naturecan and B3 Labs all showing these labels.
And powered by B3 Labs.
Powered by 3, yeah. Okay, well, is there anything that anybody else would like to add before we wrap up this virtual panel?
Great to meet the both of you virtually.
Yeah, likewise. It's good to, you know, I think that's the great thing about the ACI, isn't it? Is meeting other brands and brand owners and parts of the supply chain who are taking it seriously. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know, I'd love to swap contact details with you guys, so that we can, you know, informally just keep in touch, and really good, really positive.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've got each other's email addresses now. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Let's call it a wrap.